What if the father you lost came back to protect you from a deal that could have destroyed your life? A struggling single mother, a real estate offer too good to be true, and just when she's about to sign everything away, he shows up. Not in a dream, not in memory, at her front door. Stay with us because this is one story you'll feel in your bones. It started with a sound. Late one night, just past 2 a.m., I heard footsteps dragging across our tile floor. Not running, dragging. Slow, deliberate, like someone wearing slippers they couldn't quite lift. My bedroom door creaked ever so slightly. Our cat, Bao, hissed and bolted under the bed. But when I swung the door open, nothing. Just the hallway, empty and still. The thing is, my father had been dead for nearly 2 years. They say the dead can't protect the living. I used to believe that until the night my mom nearly signed away our home and something or someone stopped her. My name is Na Ling. I'm 17 and I live with my mother in a modest apartment just outside one of Taiwan's crowded city districts. My father, Wei Chang, died in a scooter accident when I was 15. He was our rock, our compass, our protector. When he died, my mother fell apart, but not for long. Mei Li, my mother, did what women like her always do. She put her grief in a box, got up, and found a way to survive. She started selling breakfast buns near the night market, rain or shine. She smiled through debt notices. She hit her trembling hands when she counted bills. But then came the offer, a real estate opportunity that promised freedom, and it nearly cost us everything. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. My father might be gone, but he wasn't done protecting us.
After my father's funeral, everything changed. Our home felt colder, the furniture quieter. My mother, Mei Li, had always been the kind of woman who made things feel warm. Hot soup on rainy days, jasmine tea by the window. But after he passed, she moved like a shadow in her own life. For a while, we got by with the little savings Dad left behind. But Taiwan isn't kind to single women with no formal job experience and a teenager to raise. So she did what she knew best: cook. She woke before dawn, steamed pork buns, packed soy milk in glass bottles, and wheeled her cart down the alley to the night market district where early risers and overnight workers wandered home. Rain or sweat, it didn't matter. She showed up every single day. Still, it wasn't enough. Rent was rising, school fees crept up. I started noticing how she counted coins behind the curtain or skipped meals claiming she wasn't hungry. That's when she met him. Mr. Chen wasn't flashy. He didn't wear gold or drive a Benz, but he had the kind of smooth confidence that made people lower their guard. He'd been buying breakfast from Mom's cart for a few weeks, always polite, always tipping a little extra. Then one day, he stayed back after the morning rush. "You're smart, and people trust you," he said, sipping warm soy milk. "Have you ever thought about real estate?" Mom blinked. "You mean buying houses?" "Introducing people to homes, helping families, making commissions. No upfront investment. You just need your name, your trust, your kindness." At first, she laughed it off, but Mr. Chen was persistent, always polite, never pushy. He showed her photos of small homes sold fast, testimonials of people like her making a living. He even introduced her to another older woman who claimed she'd earned enough in 3 months to pay off medical debt. My mom was skeptical, but she was also tired. Tired of stretching rice to last 3 days, tired of checking my shoes to see if they still fit. So she tried. Mr. Chen walked her through a few small listings, low-cost flats and older neighborhoods. He gave her a clipboard, a warm smile, and a line she practiced over and over. "This one has good bones. The owner just needs to sell fast." She made her first commission within a week, just a few thousand NT dollars, but to her, it felt like winning the lottery. Something shifted. Her steps got lighter. She started ironing her blouse in the morning again. For the first time since Dad died, she wore lipstick to a meeting. I didn't say anything, but I saw it. She wasn't chasing money. She was chasing control. Mr. Chen started talking about bigger flips, better margins, and the magic of borrowing just enough to get ahead. Mom listened. She nodded. She started dreaming again. A better school for me, a new fridge, maybe even a trip to Taiwan like they always planned. I wanted to be happy for her. I really did. But deep down, something felt off. Mr. Chen always smiled, but his eyes never did.
The first deal came and went like a breeze. Mom earned just enough to cover 2 months of rent and groceries. Her confidence grew, but so did Mr. Chen's influence. He started showing up more frequently, always with a new listing, a bigger promise. This one's in a transitional neighborhood, he'd say. People overlook it, but it's got potential. You flip it, you win. Mom listened. She even started taking notes. Then one morning, Mr. Chen arrived with a folder so thick it looked like a small phone book. He laid it on our kitchen table right next to the rice cooker and said the words that would haunt us for weeks. This one's different. A 3-bedroom in the East End, old construction, but the bones are perfect. And the seller? He leaned in, lowered his voice. They need cash, fast. You'd get it at half market price. My mother hesitated. It's a lot of money, Chen. Not really, he smiled. You don't even need to buy it. Just sign on the papers, get a short-term loan, flip it before the first payment's due. People do this all the time. It's how wealth moves. That night, I found my mother sitting at the dining table, staring at the documents. The lights were off. The room was quiet, except for the buzzing of a fly. Neiling, she said without turning, if I do this, we could finally breathe. I could give you what I never had. I didn't answer, but my gut twisted. The next morning, she scheduled a meeting with a bank to start the process of mortgaging our apartment, the same one my father spent his life paying off. I begged her not to. Please, Mom, something about this isn't right. Her voice cracked. Don't you want me to try to be more than some street vendor with aching knees? I didn't know how to fight that. How do you argue against a mother's desperation? Over the next few days, Mr. Chen kept visiting. He brought fruits for the altar, lit incense, spoke softly about blessings and good fortune. You have strong ancestors, he told my mom, smiling. They're proud of you. I can feel it. That's when it started. The incense wouldn't burn properly. The flames sputtered, refused to catch, or turned black halfway through. A bowl of fruit, freshly placed on the altar, tipped over by itself. No breeze, no bump, just toppled with a loud crash that startled both of us. Mr. Chen laughed it off. Must be the old floorboards. But my mother, she stopped smiling. I watched her glance at my father's photo, straightening the frame with trembling hands. And yet, the deal moved forward. She scheduled the appraisal, prepared her ID, signed a pre-loan authorization. I wanted to scream. Something wasn't right, and everyone felt it, except the one person who mattered most.
The night before the appraisal, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't nerves. It wasn't even fear. It was something heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, when I heard it again, the slow, dragging footsteps across our tile floor. The same sound I'd heard weeks ago. Slippers scraping softly, as if someone old and tired was pacing our home. But this time, they stopped outside my mother's door. I sat up. My heart slammed against my chest like it was trying to escape. Bao, our cat, leapt off the bed and darted under the couch in the living room. And then, silence. I tiptoed out of my room. The hallway was dark, except for the dim glow of the altar lamp. My mother's door was closed. Nothing looked out of place until I turned toward the altar. The incense sticks, freshly placed just hours earlier, had gone out again. Not burned down, snuffed. Clean and cold. The fruit bowl, usually centered, had tipped to the side. A single apple rolled onto the floor, resting right at my feet. I picked it up, and that's when I noticed it. My father's photo had fallen over. Not crooked, not slanted, flat down, face hidden. When Mom saw it in the morning, she didn't say a word. She just reset the altar, lit new incense, and whispered something under her breath I couldn't hear. Mr. Chen arrived at 9 a.m., carrying a bag of fruits, some red envelopes, and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He walked over to the altar, uninvited, and placed the fruit bowl down like he owned the space. "Let's bless this deal," he said, lighting a new set of incense sticks. They flared, then fizzled out midway, 3 times in a row. Still, he laughed it off. Maybe the wind, There was no wind. Every window was shut. That evening, my mom sat in the kitchen, fingers trembling around a cup of hot tea. I said, maybe we should wait, carefully. But her stare was distant. "I've already signed the papers." I felt sick. The apartment felt wrong. Not haunted in a Hollywood way, not scary, just unsettled. Like we'd invited something in, or disturbed something that was trying to warn us. That night, I saw my father. Not in a dream, not in a vision, in the hallway mirror. Just for a second, a flash of movement. A tall man in a gray work shirt, just like he used to wear, passing behind me. I spun around. No one. But when I turned back to the mirror, his photo on the altar was standing straight again. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just whispered, "I know. I'm trying."
The day of the appraisal was gray and unusually quiet. Even the birds outside had gone silent. Mom wore her best blouse, ironed flat and still faintly smelling of the incense she'd burned that morning. She tried to act calm, but I could see the nervous flicker in her eyes, the kind that no amount of makeup could hide. The bank had sent someone to inspect our apartment, standard procedure before approving any loan that used property as collateral. A young appraiser named Mr. Lin was scheduled to arrive between 2 and 3 p.m. But 3 p.m. came and went. At 3:40, Mom started pacing. At 4:10, her phone buzzed. It was Mr. Lin. He sounded confused. "Ma'am, are you sure this is the right address? I've been circling the block for 20 minutes. GPS keeps rerouting me." Mom confirmed everything. He tried again. Then, around 4:45, he finally arrived. I remember hearing the knock at the door, but we never answered, because we never heard it. That's the part that still haunts me. According to Mr. Lin, he knocked 3 separate times, loud, clear knocks. He even called her name, but inside, Mom and I were sitting just 10 feet from the front door, watching a rerun on TV, completely unaware. It wasn't until the next morning, when Mom went to the bank to apologize for the missed appointment, that we learned what had happened. Mr. Lin sat her down and leaned in. "I know this sounds strange, but when I finally found the building, there was a man standing outside your door." Mom blinked. A man. Older, tall, wearing a gray shirt. He looked right at me and said, "You're not taking this house." Then he stepped between me and the door. I tried to talk to him, but he just stared. Cold. Angry. Mom's face went pale. Mr. Lin hesitated before finishing. I didn't want to press the issue. Something felt off, so I left. Later that day, he emailed a follow-up. In the message, he attached a photo. It was the standard property ID photo he took from across the hall. The front of our door, blurred slightly, but just visible, off to the side, was the shape of a man. Mom zoomed in. Her hand trembled. It was my father, wearing the same gray work shirt he always wore. The same look in his eyes when he was angry, but trying not to show it. That night, my mother lit incense without saying a word. For the first time, the sticks burned clean and slow, curling into perfect wisps of smoke. She didn't speak. Neither did I. We didn't need to.
After the bank incident, something in my mother shifted. She didn't cancel the deal, not yet, but she stopped talking about it, stopped reviewing documents at the kitchen table, stopped smiling when Mr. Chen called. Instead, she began to listen more, to whispers, to side comments at the market, to her own gut. And then one afternoon, while picking up tofu at the stall across the alley, she heard something. "Chen's back again?" the vendor muttered to another woman, "still trying to flip that murder house?" My mom froze. Murder house? The women fell silent, realizing she'd heard. The vendor tried to recover. "It's just rumors. You know how people talk." But Mom pressed. The woman sighed. "A girl died there 2 years ago. Her boyfriend, or maybe her ex. No one's sure. The place sat empty ever since. No one wants it, so now they're pushing it cheap." Mom asked for the address. It matched. Exactly. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in silence, flipping through the documents Mr. Chen had given her, scanning for any mention of prior incidents. There were none. Nothing in the papers, nothing in the title history, just blank lines and big promises. The next morning, I went with her. We took a bus to the east side of the city, past the packed alleys and open-air markets, into a quiet, older neighborhood. Rows of boxy apartments lined narrow streets. Laundry hung from balconies. Scooters sat idle under rusted stairwells. We found the building, 5th floor, Unit 5C. The hallway smelled like mold and old incense. The door to 5C was slightly ajar. No one was inside. The air felt stale, like grief had soaked into the walls. There were red stains on the floorboards, old, faded, but still visible. When we walked further in, we saw a patch on the wall that had clearly been painted over, just slightly off color. Behind it, faint but unmistakable, was the outline of a spray-painted number, evidence tagging. My mom turned pale. In the kitchen, the cabinets were newer, installed recently, cheap, fast work, but the floor beneath the sink creaked strangely. She knelt down, pulled back the mat. Underneath, someone had scrawled a message into the wood. It was in Mandarin, but the meaning was clear. I didn't deserve this. We left in silence. She never told Mr. Chen she went. She never confronted him. She just stopped returning his calls. Word must have gotten around. At the temple that weekend, an elderly woman approached my mother and handed her a folded paper talisman. "You're lucky," the woman said softly. "Most people don't get a second warning." Mom nodded, eyes wide. She finally understood. She was never meant to take that house. And someone no longer among the living, had made sure she didn't.
For a few days, it felt like the worst had passed. My mom didn't call the bank. She ignored Mr. Chen's messages. The loan documents sat untouched in a drawer, the pen resting quietly on top like a sleeping snake. I thought we were safe. But
Pressure is a silent killer. It doesn't always scream. It whispers relentlessly. Our landlord raised the rent again. Tuition notices piled up on the counter. One of the burners on our stove broke. And just like that, Mr. Chen reappeared. Not in person, but through someone else. A woman from the market, someone my mother had casually befriended, approached her with a bright smile. "Chen told me you're hesitating. He says he can connect you with a private lender. No banks, no inspections, just a fast deal. No more delays." Mom didn't answer. That night, I heard her on the phone. She was quiet, saying little. But when I walked past the kitchen, she was holding the folder again, and the pen. I froze. "Mom," I whispered, "please don't." She turned slowly. Her eyes were red, but not from crying, from exhaustion, from finding a system that punished every misstep. "I'm tired, Nulling," she said softly. "I'm tired of scrubbing grease off dishes at 4 a.m., of pretending we're okay when we're not. I just want to breathe, just once." I didn't say anything. What could I say? I just nodded and went to bed terrified. The next day, she dressed in her nicest outfit again and left early. She didn't say where she was going. I followed her. From a distance, I watched her take the metro 3 stops to the old financial district, then walk into a narrow, windowless office tucked between a pet store and a closed-down internet cafe. On the door was a golden plaque, Independent Lending and Finance Group. My stomach dropped. This was no bank. This was predatory lending. Mom stayed inside for almost an hour. When she came out, she wasn't smiling. She walked slowly. Her purse was clutched tightly against her chest, both hands gripping the strap like a lifeline. That evening, I finally said what I hadn't dared to before. "What would Boss say if he saw you do this?" She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked at the altar. The incense, unlit. The photo, upright. The air, still. And she whispered, "He'd say I was a fool." The next morning, I woke to find her sitting at the altar, burning the loan documents. Every page curled, blackened, and turned to ash. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. 2 days later, Mr. Chen's number was disconnected. Word spread through the market. He'd vanished. Again. A neighbor told us he'd done the same thing in another district last year, preyed on widows, offered 2 good deals, pushed shady loans, and vanished before anyone could hold him accountable. He never used his real name. There were no photos of him online. He was a ghost in his own way. But my father? He was the only ghost we needed. And he'd saved us.
It rained that night. Not the usual light drizzle that blanketed the rooftops of our alleyway. This was a storm, relentless, pounding, like the sky was trying to wash something away. Inside our small apartment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Mom sat cross-legged on the floor in front of the altar, her eyes unfocused, the golden glow of the prayer lamp casting long shadows across her face. I stood by the kitchen, watching her from a distance, unsure whether I should speak or leave her in silence. Then she did something I'd never seen her do. She bowed 3 times, slow, heavy, with the weight of someone who had carried shame for too long. She whispered, not to me, but to the photo on the altar, "Forgive me." I froze. "I got greedy," she continued, her voice cracking. "I thought I could outsmart the pain, the hunger, the fear. I thought if I could just give her more, I'd be enough." The room was still, except for the sound of rain tapping the window. I almost gave away your home, she said. The one you built with your bare hands. The one where you kissed your goodnight every day for 15 years. I stepped forward. She turned her head slowly, eyes red but no longer wet. I should have listened to you, she said, not scolding, not angry, just tired. You knew something was wrong. You felt it, and I shut you out. I sat beside her, not saying a word, not yet, because in that moment I saw not just my mother, but the woman beneath the mother. A woman who had carried grief like a second skin, who had spent every day pretending not to break. And now, she had. I reached for her hand. She flinched at first, then held on tight. I didn't want more, I whispered. I just wanted you to be okay. She let out a small, bitter laugh. That's what hurts the most. You were already proud of me, and I was the one who wasn't. Outside, thunder cracked, sharp and sudden. Inside, we sat in silence. The incense began to burn again, steady and clean. And for the first time in what felt like forever, our home felt light. Not because the bills disappeared, not because we'd won some jackpot, but because the lie, the weight of pretending, had finally lifted. Mom didn't need saving. She just needed to be seen. And that night, I saw her, all of her. And I knew that wherever my father was, he did too.
After the storm passed, everything changed, but not in the way I expected. We didn't win the lottery, the bills didn't vanish overnight, the apartment still leaked in the corner near the sink when it rained, and the rice cooker still needed a double tap to start. But the air felt lighter. Mom returned to the market, pushing her cart down the same alleyway, selling the same buns and soy milk. But this time, there was no desperation in her movements, only rhythm. She knew what she had to do, and she did it without fear. She didn't stop dreaming. She just started dreaming smarter. She still dabbled in real estate, carefully, cautiously. She turned down anything that felt rushed or too good to be true. She learned to ask better questions. She didn't trust smiles anymore, only paperwork and gut instinct. Within a year, she made 2 small, honest sales. Not big money, but enough. She bought a secondhand refrigerator, fixed the leaking pipe, paid off a lingering loan from the funeral. And then she did something I never expected. She saved. Every week, she set aside a small envelope in a tin box beneath the altar. On it, she wrote, "For Naling's future." She didn't need to say it out loud. I knew what it meant. She wasn't chasing dreams anymore. She was building them. And even more than that, she was protecting something. Not just me, not just our home, but the legacy my father left behind. Every morning she lit incense at the altar, not to ask for blessings, not to beg for help, but simply to say, I remember, and I'm still here. One afternoon, a neighbor stopped by, a woman in her 70s who lived alone down the hall. She carried a bag of steamed dumplings and a story. I heard what happened, she said softly. The man at your door that day? The one who scared off the banker? Mom nodded, not saying a word. The woman smiled gently. I didn't see him, but my husband, before he passed, he used to say that when a soul can't let go, it's usually not because they're angry. It's because they're still protecting something. She looked toward our altar, eyes soft. He's proud of you. You know that, right? Mom swallowed hard. I hope so. The woman handed her the dumplings, gave a polite bow, and left. We never saw Mr. Chan again. Rumors swirled for a while. Some said he skipped town, others that he'd been caught in another district trying the same tricks. No one knew for sure. But it didn't matter anymore, because we were done being afraid. We didn't just survive that year. We earned it. And every time Mom placed a fresh cup of tea on the altar or replaced wilted flowers with new ones, she was doing more than honoring the past. She was making sure the future was worthy of it.
Months passed. Then, one afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the apartment roofs, painting the hallway in amber light, I heard a soft knock at the door. It was the same elderly neighbor from before. She looked hesitant, almost embarrassed. "I wasn't going to say anything," she began, "but the night your mother burned those papers, I saw someone." My chest tightened. She continued, "I woke up to use the bathroom. The window in my kitchen looks directly across your unit. I saw a man standing at your front door. Just standing, not knocking, just watching." I didn't ask who. I already knew. She gave me a faint smile. "He looked calm, like he was making sure everything was okay." And then she left. I walked back inside. The apartment was quiet. Mom was preparing dinner: boiled greens, steamed tofu, a bowl of rice. The altar glowed softly, as always. I stood in front of it for a moment and whispered, "We're okay now. You can rest." The incense curled upward in perfect spirals. That night, I had a dream. My father was standing in the doorway, just as he used to when I stayed up too late watching cartoons. He didn't speak, he didn't smile, but his eyes, they were peaceful. When I woke up, there was sunlight in the room and the scent of jasmine tea on the stove. Life had moved on, but he hadn't. He had become part of the walls, the floors, the warmth in our tiny home. Not a ghost, not a warning, but a presence. A quiet echo that still whispered, "I'm here, and you're safe."
This isn't just a story about real estate fraud or a mother trying to survive. It's a story about how far love goes, even beyond death. Mei Li wasn't greedy. She was desperate. A widow, alone, trying to build a future for her daughter. And when a charming stranger offered her a too-good property deal, she believed because she needed to believe. But sometimes the ones we've lost aren't really gone. Sometimes they come back, not to haunt us, but to warn us, to protect us from ourselves, to say, "Don't give up what I died building." This story reminds us of a powerful truth. When something feels wrong, listen to your gut, to your child, to the signs, no matter how strange they seem. In a world full of scams and shortcuts, it's tempting to chase fast success. But integrity, intuition, and family, those are the things that don't come with a price tag. And maybe, just maybe, those we've loved and lost are still watching, still guiding, still protecting us when we need it the most. So ask yourself, what would your loved ones do if you were about to make a choice that could cost you everything? Have you ever felt like someone was watching over you long after they were gone? Tell us in the comments, do you believe the people we've lost can still protect us? We'd love to hear your story. If this video moved you, please take a second to like it. It helps more than you know. And if you think someone you care about might be walking into a too good to be true situation, share this with them. It might just save them from making the same mistake.
And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. We've got stories that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark.